Straight Shift with the Car Chick, the podcast that's all about cars, buying, selling, fixing, and driving, and sometimes renting fast if you're the car chick. Now, here she is.
Welcome, everyone, to the Straight Shift with the Car Chick. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that comes up from time to time that people ask me a lot of questions about, and that's lemon law. Now, while I know something about lemon law, I am not an expert. I am not an attorney. I do not play one on TV. So I'm very excited today to have special guest Stephen Moskos of the Moskos Law Firm in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. Steve has been practicing law in the consumer automotive fraud space for over 30 years, and he brings a wealth of experience in this area of law and hopefully can clear some things up for us. How are you doing today, Steve?
Great, Leanne. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I think we need to talk about first, what does lemon law even mean? How is that term defined, and how does that affect us?
Well, just as an interesting aside, one of the funny things about the law is that you have what is called a lemon law, and it actually applies in two situations. There's a lemon law that applies to cars and a lemon law that applies to puppies.
Puppies?
Animals.
Puppies, like actual baby dogs.
Apparently, there are lots of people who take seriously their puppies, and they go out and buy animals. And when they get them home and they're sick, or unfortunately die, they're able to use the puppy lemon law to get their money back.
Oh my God!
But
I would not have ever thought that there would be a lemon law for puppies. That's crazy. Let's kind of talk about the one for cars, but wow.
Right. But it's interesting that what is called a lemon law applies in two situations. One is with cars, and then others with puppies.
Nothing else. Cars
now,
and puppies.
as far as a lemon law goes, at least in South Carolina, a lemon law is a law that is designed to protect buyers of new cars.
It's only new cars.
Okay, so that's new cars. Now, some states have used car lemon laws, but if you buy a used car in South Carolina, the lemon law that we have only applies to new cars.
All right, so no used cars.
In order to use the lemon law, you have to have a non-conformity in the car. All that simply means
non-conformity.
Right. All that simply means is a defect or condition that substantially impairs the use, value, or safety of the vehicle, but is not something that is because of an accident or a modification or alteration of the vehicle by the owner.
So if we modify our cars to go faster to go to the track, that's our fault. That's not the manufacturer's fault.
And this is a thing a situation that came up before was where guys would go out and buy these big, trucks like a F-250 or something. And they would take a chip and put it in the computer to get better gas mileage. And then they would start having transmission problems or engine problems or something like that. And by adding that chip, they created a problem that wasn't there when the car was manufactured.
And that's why I tell my clients, if they're going to do anything to modify the car for performance or gas mileage or whatever, wait until the factory warranty period is over, because not only does it mean the lemon law doesn't apply to you, but making modifications to a vehicle will also void your factory warranty lickety-split.
It will create a problem. Now, with a chip, you might be able just to simply take the chip out and not void the warranty. But if it's something substantial, obviously the manufacturer may come in and say, oh, we're not going to replace the XYZ component because you did something to it. Another thing is you drive down the road, you have an accident or a wreck, and then all of a sudden your car doesn't operate right.
That's not the manufacturer's fault either.
Right. So it has to be something that the vehicle has to be operating the vehicle has to be operating improperly based on the way it was manufactured. Okay.
That makes sense. You said previously that it has to be something that is either safety related or affects the value of the vehicle. So, could it be something like the radio's not working or the infotainment system isn't working properly versus something bigger or safety related like the engine or the transmission?
Well, the position that I take is that it's an electrical issue. And when you start talking about electrical issues, I think that's a substantial issue, especially when you're talking about why are you buying this vehicle? You're more than likely you're buying it for all the bells and whistles, and that's been discussed with the salesman. The salesman's going to push all those bells and whistles, and when they
Oh,
don't work,
definitely.
if you were standing on the lot and the guy said, "Hey, we've got this one with an info system that works, and we've got this one with an info system that doesn't work. Which car are you going to buy?"
Absolutely. You're not going to buy
Okay,
something that doesn't
right.
work. It's definitely going to affect the
And
value of the car.
so, you have some. I know Ford has had problems with its fusions and focuses, the transmission they've used. That has affected the use and the value of the vehicle. Um, I'm going to show my age and talk about the Pinto, which exploded.
Oh, come on. That
And
was just an unpublished feature. The exploding is what made it so exciting.
right, right. But you got that, and you have the Toyota acceleration problems. Those are obviously some safety issues. Now, um, now we have to keep in mind that the lemon law is dealing with the product itself. We're not talking about, in the example I used, or recently you had the GM ignition, or the ignition issue, where the car would cut off while you're driving down the road.
Right, that cutoff issue is really scary. That has actually happened to me in a Chrysler product, but when you lose power and lose control of the car driving down the road, that's terrifying.
Right. Yes, you're absolutely right. Now, if you don't hit anybody and no one hits you and you don't, damage your car, you may have a case that falls under the lemon law. On the other hand, if you hit somebody, or like with the Takata airbags where it blows up and sends shrapnel into your face, you might have what is known as a products liability case. That's dealing with personal injuries and that kind of thing. The lemon law does not deal with any sort of physical injury. It's simply to deal with uh, whether or not the manufacturer has to repurchase the vehicle because of the non-conformities, the defects or conditions that substantially affect the use, value, or safety of the vehicle.
Typically, when you have a problem with a new car, you take it back to the dealership under warranty. We're assuming it's still under factory warranty, and they fix it. If the problem has been experienced by a lot of people and it's well known, the manufacturer may issue what's called a technical service bulletin. And that is an internal bulletin to repair shops and their own dealerships to say, hey, this is a known problem, and here's how you fix it. If it is a big enough problem and widespread enough, then they may issue a recall like they did with the Takata airbag. And they may extend the warranty on the car or that particular component to cover because the recall has been such a big problem. Where, though, do we go from, we kind of cross the line from just dealing with a warranty issue or dealing with a recall issue into the area of actual lemon law where we need to pursue the manufacturer buying back the car?
All right, great question. It is a bit of a complicated and long answer, but a great question. The way the warranty laws work, if you buy a vehicle and let's say it breaks down, let's say you're having problems with the transmission, you cannot sue for a breach of warranty until you have given the manufacturer an opportunity to
An
repair.
opportunity.
Okay.
What
Now,
exactly does it mean by an
that
opportunity?
well, one is you go in and they say, we're not fixing it under the warranty. You've given them the opportunity to repair and they have refused. Okay. That's one manner. Okay. By going in and simply saying, hey, my transmission's not working, I want you to fix it under the warranty, you're giving them the opportunity to repair. What I mean by giving them the opportunity to repair is if it breaks down, you can't just run down to the courthouse and say you breached your warranty. So buy this car back. You have to give them the opportunity to repair the vehicle under the warranty. Now,
And that's fair.
Absolutely, that's fair. Let's assume you get the car back and the transmission breaks down again. The average person is thinking, well, the transmission is a transmission. It broke. Well, when you're talking to a mechanic, of course, he may say, well, the part that broke the first time was this piece. The part that broke the second time is a different part. So now we got to fix that.
And that's not an unusual situation. Very often, when you're trying to diagnose a problem with a car, very often because these systems are complicated and there are parts that kind of depend on other parts to work, maybe the mechanic has to replace part number one to then see if the problem is also appearing in part number three, because you can't diagnose down the pipeline until you fix part number one, because that will then reveal that, oh, there's also a problem with part number three. And that can be a communication issue between the mechanic to the service writer to the customer. And most customers just don't know how these systems are put together and how complicated they are. So that may very well be the case that you have to fix part one before you can even see, where the other problems exist further down in the system to be able to get the overall problem fixed.
And you're absolutely right. Okay. That may be the situation. The law, however, says that with the South Carolina lemon law, and I'm being specific about that because there are other laws that apply to breach of warranty claims on the state level and on the federal level, which have a different, I want to say, timing mechanism. And I want to be sure that we're talking about the South Carolina lemon law.
I think this is a good time to drop in a little disclaimer and let people know we're specifically talking about South Carolina lemon law because that is where Steve's law firm is based and it's the state in which he practices. But lemon laws can vary from state to state. So you may want to take the opportunity to Google the lemon laws as it applies to your state. But we're kind of talking about at a high level. This is how it works in South Carolina, just to give you an idea of what lemon law looks like, but definitely check within your own state.
Correct. Okay. And the law has a number of different hurdles that you have to get over, different tests are having to be met, and each one varies from state to state. And here's an example. In South Carolina, if you take your vehicle in for 3 or more repairs, and the vehicle is not repaired, it's not fixed, it is presumed under the law that the vehicle is non-conforming. In other words, it has a defect or condition that substantially affects the use, value, or safety of the vehicle. And therefore, you can start utilizing the remedies or the process set out in the lemon law. Now, that's a presumption.
So is that kind of like a 3 strikes and you're out?
Sort of, but it's not an absolute. It's a presumption. I don't want to get too much into the weeds about all the legal implications of that, but other states may say you have to have it in for 4 repairs before there's that presumption. Okay. So if you take it in for 3 or more repairs and they can't fix it, it is presumed defective, non-conforming. And at that point, the manufacturer, what you then have to do is write to the manufacturer, okay, and tell them, give them notice, written notice, that there's a problem with your vehicle. So if you pull out your warranty book out of your glove box and you look at the warranty manual, it's going to say, if you have a problem, take it to the dealership. You do that 3 times. The next step in the warranty book is going to be write to us. And then they have 10 days after receipt of the letter to communicate with you to set up a time to repair the vehicle. If they say we want to repair the vehicle during that 10-day period, you have to deliver it to a dealership, a repair shop, and then they have 10 days to work on it. Then, if the vehicle is still not working correctly, based on that continuing problem. Then you have to go through what is known as non-binding arbitration.
Good old
Now,
non-binding arbitration. We really hate
well,
those words.
what we're dealing with here is, depending on the manufacturer, you may wind up with, there are two that I'm routinely deal with. One is the Better Business Bureau, and the other is the National Center for Dispute Settlement. Anyway, you send in your material. The Better Business Bureau requires you to come and testify. And what will happen is you'll sit in a conference room. There's somebody at the end of the table who is going to, in essence, be a judge. And they listen to your side. They listen to the other side being the manufacturer, who may attend in person, on the phone, or just through paper. Here's our position. You make a decision. And at the conclusion, the arbitrator will make a decision on the case. The way the Better Business Bureau has been working recently, all the Better Business Bureau arbitrator decides is liability. In other words, whether the vehicle is non-conforming and should be repurchased. If you accept the decision, it is binding on you and the manufacturer. If you decline the decision in South Carolina, you can then file suit in state court. The problem with the non-binding arbitration procedure is that it does not follow the lemon law. In other words, there is a formula in the lemon law that if you put in the numbers, it gives you a repurchase price. It's the full purchase price, including all the governmental fees that you've paid and the...
So it's not just the price of the car itself, but also the dealer dock fee, your tax and tag fees, and anything else that you put on the car, as well as any interest that you may have paid on a loan for the car, assuming that you didn't pay cash.
Correct. So you have your full purchase price minus a reasonable allowance for mileage. In South Carolina, the reasonable allowance for mileage is based on the mileage attributable to the owner's use of the vehicle up to the first report of the nonconformity. So if you had 100 miles on your car when you bought it, that doesn't count against you.
Just like it typically doesn't count against you in terms of when the warranty kicks in. The new car warranty typically kicks in from the day that you pick up the car. So if it has a couple miles on it when you get it, even though it's brand new, those miles don't count against you typically in the warranty.
Then you subtract the reasonable allowance for mileage from the full purchase price, and that gives you the amount that the manufacturer is supposed to pay to repurchase the vehicle. In some states, it may be, the mileage on the vehicle at the time you get to the Better Business Bureau or something like that. It's a different number. The formula used in South Carolina when you go to the Better Business Bureau gives the manufacturer more mileage. The percentage is more in favor of the manufacturer on the reasonable allowance for mileage, and they get to use the mileage on the vehicle at the time of the hearing, as opposed to the mileage on the vehicle at the time of the first report of the nonconformity. So you may have 5,000 miles on the car when you have that first transmission issue, but you've been using the vehicle and now it's 25,000 miles. They get to factor that into the Better Business Bureau number. What is going to happen is if you hire a lawyer in South Carolina and go through this process, you're not going to be happy with the number that the Better Business Bureau comes up with. If you were my client, I would say decline the decision and go forward with a lawsuit. Then the lemon law comes into play and you're dealing with a different set of numbers and one that's more advantageous to the owner.
That is great information, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to take just a really quick break, and when we come back in 60 seconds, we're going to talk more lemon law with attorney Steve Moskos. We'll be right back. Do you hate car shopping? Do you worry about being taken advantage of or about finding the right car at a fair price? Buying a car can be a frustrating and time-consuming experience. But what if you could get a great deal without having to do a ton of research, without having to haggle, and without the fear of buying a lemon? You can. As your personal car shopper, the Car Chick will help you pick the perfect car based on your unique lifestyle, budget, and personality. She'll handle all of the legwork and negotiating for you. All you have to do is sign the papers and take the keys. It's that easy. To learn how the Car Chick can save you time, money, and hassle on your next car purchase, give us a call at 888-575-2138. That's 888-575-2138. Or visit us on the web at thecarchick.com.
Ah, the Car Chick is back for more Straight Shift.
Welcome back to The Straight Shift. This is the Car Chick, and we have been talking today with attorney Steve Moskos about lemon law. What does it apply to, how it applies to new cars, and kind of what's the process that one has to go through if they think that maybe they bought a lemon. So, Steve, let me ask you this. Is there kind of a time limit on when lemon law kicks in? Like, say you've been driving the car for 4 years and now all of a sudden you start having problems with it, as opposed to you started having problems with it after you've only been driving it for a couple of months or even a couple of weeks. Is there some sort of time frame in which lemon law kicks in?
Well, that's an interesting question. The first part of the answer to that question is yes. If you're outside the warranty, the lemon law is not going to apply. Now, some states have a hard limit that says if you don't report the problem within, some states have 12,000 miles, some have 18,000 miles, you don't get to use the lemon law. The way I interpret South Carolina law is you have to bring it in during the warranty period. All right. So that may be 3 years, 36,000 miles. That may be, some of the vehicles now have 7 years, 100,000 mile warranty.
Right. On your powertrain components, some of them even have 10 years, 100,000 miles, like Hyundai and Kia, and some of your American products, they have expanded the powertrain warranty as well.
Right. Okay. So that's the first side of that question. The second side is there is a statute of limitations that's in place. And that is a 3-year statute of limitations from the day you buy the car. Okay. So if you buy it on January 1, 2015, and you had problems throughout your ownership of the vehicle, and on January 2, 2018, you go to a lawyer, you're out of luck.
So just like with some crimes that have statute of limitations, like breaking and entering and whatnot, you need to file that lawsuit, initiate the process before that statute of limitations runs out. Now, does the lemon law apply to cars that you have leased as opposed to cars that you have purchased?
In South Carolina, it does, but it's tricky. It's tricky, okay?
This whole thing sounds tricky, Steve.
Well, that's why I have a job. But the difficulty with a lease car is you don't own the car. And at some point, you're going to have to give up that car. The law requires you, if you are successful under your lemon law claim, you have to return the vehicle to the manufacturer. Let's assume for a second that you have a 1-year lease and you start having problems at 6 months, and you're going through this process, and now it's time to turn in the vehicle. Now, most people may go, well, I don't care. Mr. Leasing Company, you can have your car and I'm finished with that problem. But if the lease is 2 years or 3 years or 5 or however long it is, now you're sitting there. A 3-year lease is one that starts making me a little nervous.
And most car leases are 3 years. The sweet spot for most manufacturers is 36 to 42 months. So a 3-year lease is the norm.
So when you have that the problem manifesting itself, say 9 months to 15 months after the purchase, the question then becomes, can you get through this process in time before the lease runs out? And if the answer is no, now you've got to deal with the leasing company,
right,
who doesn't care about your problem. The leasing company is already probably, if you look in the fine print of your contract, it will say, if you have a problem with the vehicle, you can handle it on our behalf. So they're turning over all of the warranty issues to you, the consumer, which is what you want, obviously. And then you're required to handle this problem if there is one. And they're sitting there, they being the leasing company, saying, we don't care about your problem. We just want our money.
Yeah, that's what they always say.
Right?
We don't care about your problems. We
Right.
just want our money.
That's right. And so, you're left sitting there trying to figure out, can you get into the court and resolve this case before the lease runs out? And then if it does run out, now you're having to deal with the leasing company and seeing how to work all that out. It can be a little hairy sometimes. But to answer your question, yes, it applies to lease cars in South Carolina.
I assume we've been talking about the Lemon Law as it applies to passenger vehicles. So your sedans, your convertibles, your minivans, your SUVs, your pickup trucks. But does it apply to other types of vehicles like, say, motorcycles or RVs, ATVs? What about commercial vehicles? Does it apply to those, or is it only kind of your normal passenger vehicles?
Well, again, like everything else in this law, it's a little complicated. It deals with motor vehicles, and motor vehicles are private passenger motor vehicles. It does not include the living portion of recreational vehicles and off-road vehicles. All right. It does include motorcycles as defined by the code, including three-wheel vehicles. It is not going to apply to like a Mack truck, because what we're looking at is, and this is defined in a separate section of this Lemon Law. It says it defines a consumer as a purchaser or lessor of a motor vehicle normally used for personal, family, or household purposes and subject to a manufacturer's express warranty. All right. So we're dealing with vehicles that are normally used for personal, family, or household purposes. Obviously, a Mack truck is not normally used for that purpose, though I'm sure somebody in this country is driving around going to the grocery store and more.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. I would probably do it if I had one.
But if you did that, if you said, hey, I want to buy a Mack truck and just drive it around town, and you started having problems, you could not take the manufacturer to court and sue under the Lemon Law. You'd be thrown out.
Fortunately, the vast majority of my clients were dealing with the personal automobile, car, truck, SUV, minivan type of vehicle. I haven't bought a Mack truck recently, so I'm not so worried about that. But I would imagine if someone is potentially experiencing a lot of problems with their relatively new vehicle and they think they might be going down this Lemon Law path, is there some sort of special documentation that they need to start keeping and accumulating that will facilitate this process if and when it does get to the Lemon Law lawsuit path?
Well, first of all, I tell my clients, look, the glove box makes a very poor filing cabinet. Yeah, because a lot of people will keep their purchase documents in their glove box.
Which is a really bad idea, to keep all of your sales documentation or documentation related to your vehicle in your glove box. That is a bad idea for so many reasons. Please don't do it.
Right. So you want to take out all your retail installment sales contract, your buyer's order, the affidavit and notification of sale of motor vehicle, all those documents that you got at the time of the purchase.
I agree. I tell my clients to always create a nice little file folder to go in your filing cabinet or file drawer at home with all your other important papers. Label it with the year, make, and model of your vehicle. Stick your purchase documents, all your warranty documents, anything else you bought in that folder. And then as the car's life continues, keep putting all the documentation associated with that vehicle into that folder. So all of your service work, your oil changes, any repairs that have been made to the vehicle, anything you've done to it, just put it all in that one folder. That way you have full documentation of absolutely everything related to that vehicle and what's been done to it.
Right. All the invoices need to go in there, especially when you start having a problem. If you're getting your oil changed someplace else, you want to keep all those receipts, because if you're having an engine problem, they're going to blame it on the other place you went to for messing up the engine, not doing the oil change right.
That's why I tell my clients that they need to keep all of their service records, whether you do your service at the dealership or you do it at a good quality ASC certified independent repair shop. Keep all those receipts. That way, if you do have a warranty problem, you have documentation showing that, yes, you have been maintaining the car exactly per the maintenance schedule that the manufacturer recommends in the owner's manual.
Absolutely. In South Carolina, you will need a copy of your registration. You need that. If you're at the shop, you want to make sure that the invoices have on there what the problem is. People will come into me and say, well, that's kind of what I told them, but that's not exactly what the problem was that I told them about. And so when you're dealing with a lawyer on the other side who's saying, well, you told us that it was there was a knock in the back of the engine, and you're saying, no, I just said there was a knock in the engine compartment. I didn't know where it was coming from. Now there's an argument as to what was actually said at that time. If the invoice matches what you told them, fine. If not, you need to get the service advisor to change it and make sure that it's correct while you're there.
And there is a field in the service department's computer when you bring your car in called customer complaint, and they're supposed to fill that in because that's what gets communicated then back to the mechanic who's going to be diagnosing the problem. But a lot of people don't have a lot of good information to give them. They don't really know what's wrong. They just hear some random noise or feel some random vibration. So that information may be a little bit vague, but be sure that it is documented properly on that form.
Right. Well, the properly documented part is what I'm really interested in, because we want to make sure that when everybody's looking at these documents, whether it's me, the manufacturer, or a jury or a judge, everybody, when they read it, sees the same thing. There's no wiggle room.
Steve, you have shared so much great information with us today about lemon law, and it's really complicated, like you said, and not something that people should try to go through this process without the benefit of a good attorney. So if someone feels that they may be going down this path, that they may have purchased a lemon, how can they get a hold of you?
You can you can call me at 843-763-5297. Again, 843-763-5297. I am in Charleston, and you can also go to my website, www.moskoslawfirm.com. That's moskoslawfirm.com.
Steve, your law firm is located in South Carolina, but is that the only state that you're licensed to practice in, or could you help people in North Carolina or Georgia or any other states?
Well, I'm only licensed in South Carolina. However, I have tried cases in other states. Basically, what you're looking at is getting permission from the court system there to come in and handle the case.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, Steve, and to share all this great information. Folks, I hope that you never have a situation where you think you may have bought a lemon and need this information, but it's good to know that we've got attorneys like Steve Moskos out there to look out for the consumer's interests. My process is designed to help clients pick good quality cars that have a history of quality and reliability so that we're not buying a lemon. But the reality is, cars are getting so much more complicated. They're so computer-based now that we just don't know what the future holds in terms of that reliability and quality, but we certainly try to avoid those lemons. But if you do think you're in a lemon situation, please either contact Steve or contact a lemon law attorney in whatever state you're in. Folks, drive safely, and we'll catch you the next time on The Straight Shift.
Straight Shift Podcast is copyright Leanne Shattuck, The Car Chick, 2017. All views expressed by guest and or co-hosts are those of the guest and or co-hosts, and not necessarily those of Leanne Shattuck or The Car Chick.